And after that, you just need to remember to tag it. I see it's a very simple process. And you tag this raw object you've created. And after you've done it, you can finally start signing your commits. On the other side of the fence, if you're somebody who wants to certify, you verify a signature, first you need to import it in your local storage with GPG import. So you print to screen a certain key that somebody has committed. And after that, you can just do the famous verification. So after all this setup, which I realize is a bit cumbersome, you're finally able to just do sign commits and release tags with your own signature, or just verify somebody else's. This provided that you have those keys in your local GPG databases. Okay. The last section is about Git and project dependencies. And so I was thinking, project dependencies, obviously the turtle's all the way down. To handle dependencies, famous turtle that's holding the universe. I don't know how I came to that, I'm sorry. Creative things sometimes. So how do you handle project dependencies with Git? So it comes upon a point in the size of a software project where keeping everything into a single repository becomes unfeasible. At least it becomes unfeasible for many companies. Some companies go all the way and just try to keep everything in a single repository. I don't know if you guys have read, a while ago there was this article from Facebook, and they have 100+ million lines of code in a single repository. And it has some advantages, right? You don't have to, there's some advantages to keeping all your dependencies and all pieces of your infrastructure in a single repository. And I think it comes with a cost. But also splitting up a repository comes with a cost. So sometimes if you have a submodule, a dependency, you might need to do a release for that specific module every time you do even a tiny change. And so it creates a lot of process in growing number of modules and how to organize them. But I am slightly sidetracking. The question is, how do you use Git to handle project dependencies? My suggestion is to first explore if you can use a build or dependency tool instead of Git. And I'll just list a few. And if your technology stack is relatively uniform, you generally can get away and get pretty far with just those. You don't need Git for doing project dependency. So I'll give you an example. For Java, we've been using Maven for a few years. There's Gradle, it's just a relatively new addition to the tool set. If you use Node.js, there's npm. Their JavaScript has a non-node JavaScript has power, component.io, Python has pip, is installed, Ruby has gems. It doesn't stop there. Even if you have a slightly different technology stack, C# has Nugget, C++ can be made to work with Ivy or CMake, Objective-C or CocoaPod. So basically every technology stack has a dependency management tool that will assemble your dependencies, collect them, version them. And for example, for us, Go obviously has been engineered to already have pretty good support for dependencies in the language, but obviously some tools have been emerging, like GoDap, that allows you to handle it in a slightly more scalable way. At Atlassian, we are prominently Java products, so we obviously use Maven, and for our Java for the JavaScript front-end part, we're using Bower. So that works very well for us. Obviously, handling different releases of some module is slightly a pain sometimes, but it works very well. If you really want to use Git, obviously there's a couple of options. There's one facility called submodules, which work. The only concern with some modules is they're slightly non-intuitive to use, and they store metadata in your working directory, so they're a bit clunky to use. A more recent addition to this is Git subtrees. Git subtrees are slightly lower level. They allow you to basically plug a folder coming from a different repository, and they're completely agnostic. They work with very early versions of Git, even Git 1.5. So Git subtrees are very agnostic. You just pull part of a tree from a different repository and you plug it into a directory. So those are two Git-friendly, Git-native solutions to the dependency problem. If all this is not working for you, there's a few cross-stack dependency tools that are relatively popular. I'll mention a few. Actually, I have a long list for you. One you might have heard. It's called the repo. So it's a project from Google that allows you to. It's a tool that sits on top of Git and allows you to pull in and manage dependencies at a slightly higher level of abstraction. And also the guys that work on the Chromium project, the open source version of Google Chrome, have their own build tools, debug tools, they're called, which are help out with the sort of problems. Obviously, Facebook, Twitter all have their build systems, which are open source and you can explore. They don't really handle project dependencies, but I just put them up there for completeness. If you want to read more about this, a while ago I wrote an article exactly about this, and so if you have feedback, feel free to read that or come to me and talk to me. So this is what I had for you, ideas about how to write nice aliases, to hide stuff from the repository, some tips about conflict resolution and how to polish your code, how to prevent tampering by signing release commits, and some ideas of how to handle project dependencies with Git. We find this interesting, and so thank you very much for your attention. Thank you. That we might have 5 minutes for questions, so if you guys have questions, things you want to talk about, I'm impressed by the timing. Also last time you did 5 minutes. Questions? Let's see. I don't know how to turn these on. Anyway, you can try without microphone. Any questions? Things you didn't like? No? If there's no questions, you can always come and talk to me. I'll be here for the remainder of the day. You can have a chat about Git or Docker or other cool things as you like.
Nej, du ska fråga. Han har väl duschat? Nej.